right, so we're going deep today into the life and the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. And to do that, we're going right to the source.
Straight to the source, his autobiography.
The story of my experiments with truth.
Yes.
To kind of uncover, the man behind the legend.
Well, it's fascinating how even as a child, he's grappling with these big questions, about truth and morality. And his autobiography really reveals these early experiences that shape his path.
Yeah, like those plays he talks about.
Yeah.
Like Harish Chandra, the king who gives up everything for truth. And I mean, talk about setting a high bar for a kid.
Yeah. Right.
And then the story of Shravana, the devoted son.
Right.
Who meets a tragic end.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see how those stories, even though they're just plays, would leave a mark on a young mind.
Yeah, these early encounters with moral dilemmas, I think they plant those seeds for this later commitment to truth and justice. But here's something I find interesting,
Okay.
Gandhi was married at 13 years old.
13. Wow. That's young.
Very young, even for the time.
Even for the time, yeah.
And what's even more surprising is Gandhi himself looks back on it and calls it preposterously early.
Wow.
Even saying that it lacked a moral argument. So you can see, even at a young age, he's questioning these societal norms and thinking critically about what he believed in.
And speaking of questioning norms, let's talk about his struggles with eating meat.
Yeah.
Because his friends were practically pushing meat on him.
Right.
Like claiming it was the key to strength.
Of course.
Especially if they wanted to defeat the British.
Right.
Can you imagine that? Conquer colonialism with a good steak?
Right.
It's almost comical now.
It really highlights the pressure he faced, right?
Yeah.
You have this young man trying to find his place in a world dominated by colonial powers.
Yeah.
And even something as personal as diet is entangled with these forces. But internally, Gandhi was torn, right? He desired strength, but was also drawn to the principle of nonviolence, ahimsa.
All right, yeah.
Even extending it to animals.
Yeah, so how did he reconcile?
He experimented.
Okay.
He experimented. So in his autobiography, he describes this, what he calls the durian meat experiment.
Okay.
Have you ever had durian fruit?
That spiky, pungent fruit?
Yes.
That's notorious for its unique aroma.
That is it.
Okay.
And so someone convinced young Gandhi that it tasted like meat. And so he saw it as a potential solution to his dilemma.
Right. But did it work?
Well, it solidified his commitment to vegetarianism.
Okay.
So you see, Gandhi wasn't just abstaining from meat.
Right.
He was making a conscious choice aligned with his worldview.
Yeah.
And this seemingly small act of, choosing durian over meat speaks volumes about this dedication to living in accordance with his principles.
It makes you wonder, what other experiments did he undertake to align his life with his values?
Well, his journey to England is a prime example.
Okay.
He faced immense opposition from his family and his community, who saw studying law in England as an irreligious act.
Wow.
Imagine the courage it took to defy those expectations and pursue his own path.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about academics.
Yeah.
He had to navigate a whole new culture.
Absolutely.
Right.
There are these humorous anecdotes in his autobiography about his attempts to adapt to English customs.
Okay.
I mean, imagine Gandhi, the future champion of simple living, struggling with dancing lessons, trying to fit in these stiff formal suits.
It humanizes him.
It does.
You see him not as this untouchable icon, but as this young man trying to find his way, learning, stumbling, and ultimately growing.
And it's those experiences, those clashes and adaptations that shape his character and prepare him for even greater challenges that await him in South Africa.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the life and philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
So Gandhi, this young man who has already wrestled with some pretty, big issues, arrives in South Africa.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this is where things really heat up.
You're right. South Africa becomes a crucible for him.
Okay.
A place where his experiences with injustice fueled his passion for social change and really led to the development of Satyagraha, and it's all right there in his autobiography.
Let's talk about Satyagraha because it feels like such a key part of understanding Gandhi.
Absolutely.
What exactly is it?
So Satyagraha, which translates to truth force, is a form of nonviolent resistance that goes beyond, passive protest.
Sure.
It's about actively engaging with injustice through a combination of moral conviction, courage, and a willingness to suffer. for the cause.
Okay.
Gandhi believed that by adhering to truth and refusing to cooperate with oppressive systems, individuals could expose the immorality of those systems and ultimately bring about change.
That train incident he describes is a perfect example.
Yes.
Imagine being forcibly removed from a train compartment, even though you have a valid first-class ticket.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to fathom how infuriating and dehumanizing that must have been.
He called it a baptism of fire.
Wow.
And it really ignited in him this passion to fight racial discrimination, not just for himself, but for all of those who were being marginalized and oppressed.
And it wasn't long before he started putting satyagraha into practice, right? The founding of the Natal Indian Congress was a major step in organizing the Indian community to challenge those discriminatory laws. I'm struck by the fact that even within the community, there were these debates about how to best achieve equality.
Absolutely.
Some argued for assimilation, for conforming to European customs.
Right.
But Gandhi held firm to his belief in cultural identity.
Absolutely. He insisted on wearing his turban.
Right.
A powerful symbol of his heritage.
Yeah.
Even when pressured to conform, it was a statement, that demanding respect didn't require erasing one's identity.
Yeah.
And that was key to satyagraha, remaining true to oneself and one's values.
And he didn't shy away from taking on big challenges?
No, he didn't.
He led campaigns against unfair taxes, fought against the Black Plague segregation policies. I mean, it's clear that Gandhi was fearless in using satyagraha to confront injustice.
Yeah, and what's remarkable is that he's constantly refining his approach.
Yeah.
Experimenting with different methods of nonviolent resistance.
Yeah.
Each campaign an opportunity to learn and adapt to strengthen his understanding of how satyagraha could be used to bring about meaningful change.
It's easy to focus on the grand scale of Gandhi's activism.
Right.
But his autobiography also reveals this deep personal commitment to living in alignment with his values.
Absolutely.
He was constantly pushing himself, experimenting with different lifestyles and practices.
His time at Phoenix Farm, a communal living experiment, inspired by thinkers like Ruskin and Tolstoy.
Yeah.
It was a space where he could explore the principles of simple living and self-sufficiency, putting his ideals into practice.
And then there are those incredible dietary experiments.
Yeah.
We already talked about the durian fruit incident.
Right.
But he went even further, giving up spices, pulses, eventually even milk, all in this pursuit of self-discipline and self-control, what he called brahmacharya.
Brahmacharya.
Seems almost superhuman.
It's easy to romanticize those choices.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that, Gandhi's commitment came at a cost.
Right.
His autobiography isn't shy away from the challenges that those choices placed on his family, particularly his wife Kasturbai.
Right.
It reveals the human side of this iconic figure, the complexities and sacrifices inherent in living a life dedicated to such lofty ideals.
It's a reminder that even the greatest leaders are human, grappling with those same tensions between personal aspirations and the needs of those around them.
Yeah.
So we have Gandhi transformed by his experiences in South Africa, a powerful advocate for social justice with a deep personal commitment to his principles.
Right.
What happens when he returns to India after all this? It's amazing to think after 2 decades in South Africa, Gandhi returns to India, a place he called home. But that must have felt in some ways unfamiliar.
Yeah, he talks about going through this reevaluation phase.
Yeah.
He wasn't just stepping back into his old life. He was seeing India with new eyes, rediscovering its complexities after years of fighting for justice in another land.
And he didn't immediately jump into a leadership role.
No.
He spent time learning, connecting with key figures like Gopal Krishna Gokhale.
Right.
It seems like he recognized the importance of understanding the specific political landscape of India.
Absolutely, like a political apprenticeship, right? Absorbing wisdom from these experienced figures, building relationships, and carefully strategizing his approach. It reminds us that even someone as influential as Gandhi understood the value of preparation and mentorship.
Yeah, and then he starts taking on these incredibly powerful causes.
Yes.
Like the Champaran Indigo Satyagraha in 1917.
Right.
This was Gandhi taking on the exploitation of indigo farmers by British planters.
Exactly. Applying satyagraha on a large scale.
Yeah.
Not just fighting for the rights of individuals, but tackling a system of injustice.
And it wasn't just farmers. He takes on labor rights during the Ahmedabad mill strike in 1918, mediating between workers and owners. And this is also where we see his first public fast.
Right.
Such a striking image.
Powerful.
It speaks to the depth of his commitment.
Yeah, it's a powerful demonstration of how satyagraha goes beyond words.
Yeah.
It's about putting your own body and well-being on the line
Right.
to expose the injustice of a situation and force those in power to confront their own conscience.
And then there's the Kedah Satyagraha in 1918, where he supported peasants struggling under, the burden of taxes during a famine. We see a pattern emerging here. It's like Gandhi was systematically targeting those who are most vulnerable, using Satyagraha as a shield to protect them from exploitation.
Each campaign, each victory built momentum and solidified his leadership. It's like India was waking up to the power of Satyagraha
Yeah.
as a force for change.
And things escalate further with the rollout Satyagraha in
Yeah,
1919 when he
yeah,
calls for a nationwide hurdle, a general strike. And this is where things get even more complex, right?
Yeah.
right, because there's violence that erupts
Yeah.
during this protest. And Gandhi, despite not condoning it, makes this decision to temporarily suspend the movement.
Wow.
A difficult choice, but it speaks volumes about his commitment to nonviolence.
Yeah.
Even in the face of extreme provocation, he refused to let his movement be tainted by actions that contradicted its core principles.
It's almost paradoxical, isn't it? By choosing to step back, he's actually making an even stronger statement about the power of peaceful resistance.
Exactly, and from this point onward, the non-cooperation movement gains even more momentum.
Yeah.
Gandhi, honed by his experiences, is leading a movement on a national scale, and the symbolism of khadi hand-spun cloth becomes central to this movement.
The iconic image of Gandhi at his spinning wheel.
It became a symbol of self-reliance, a rejection of British goods, an embrace of Indian-made products. It was an economic and political statement woven into the fabric of the movement.
It's incredible how he managed to weave together these seemingly disparate threads: political action, personal conviction, economic strategy, even symbolism,
Yeah,
all into this powerful force for change.
it's true. And while our deep dive ends here, before the culmination of India's struggle for independence, I think we've gained a much deeper understanding of the man behind the movement. Gandhi wasn't just a leader, he was a tireless experimenter, constantly testing his values, his principles, against the realities of a world rife with injustice.
And here's a final thought to ponder. Gandhi's experiments weren't about achieving some perfect state. They were about the process, the striving, the questioning, the constant refining of oneself and one's approach to creating a more just world. What are your experiments with truth? What small acts of courage, of self-discipline might you embrace to make a positive impact? Share your thoughts and keep the conversation going. We'd love to hear how this deep dive into the life of Mahatma Gandhi has resonated with you.